Hello, my name is Evan Hutton, and I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. You come all the way to this TED Talk, and this kid is lecturing you about one of the most disputed, stigmatized, and many people don't even believe ADHD exists. But today I'm not going to be arguing about whether ADHD exists. I'm going to be giving you my personal experience, and I'm going to tell you why it hasn't hindered me in the slightest. So when I meet most people for the first time and I tell them they have ADHD, they usually ask me to describe it, which is actually kind of a lie because most of the time they ask me for my medication, but at this point in life, I can't really afford a felony because, I want to go to like college and stuff. And then I don't even know if McDonald's accepts felons, so I'm trying to keep my options open. But each time I've gone back to the same thought process. Was famously snubbed by Kanye West for her award music video of the year. And so each time I'm asked to do a problem or asked to complete a chart, I get this train of thought going. It's like Taylor going up to receive her award. I'm very excited, I'm happy, I'm going up to receive my award, and then out of nowhere, just Kanye West, and he cuts me off. It's like another train of thought, just cut me off. It's like, now I'm very happy for you, and I'm gonna let you finish, but I just wanna say that hummingbird is one of the greatest distractions of all time. And that's when the teacher calls on me, and I have to explain to him why I don't have the answer, and it's usually a little awkward. I have explained my way out of so many times when I didn't have the answer. The teachers just stopped believing me. As a matter of fact, when I was in 6th grade, one of the substitutes, after hearing me babble on about why I didn't know the answer, she goes, "Honey, you're really confused." I go, "I know." And she's like, "Are you sure you're in the right classroom?" I'm like, "Ma'am, I could be a first grader." I know. So that's life with ADHD. I'm constantly spacing off, I'm constantly inattentive. But every time that I'm not doing an assignment, every time that I'm failing to write down the homework, every time that I'm looking out the window at the very pretty hummingbird, I'm dreaming of a different reality. I'm scripting something. I'm dreaming of a world that I create. I'm cultivating this sense of creativity. And it's manifested itself in my writing, and I love to write. When we would get those short stories about Billy going to pick an apple for his sick grandparents or something, I would just cross it out and I would write my own story. And that has made it interesting today. But that's not all of it. Life with ADHD can be pretty crippling for me. I tend to make careless mistakes, and this is best illustrated by one time in 7th grade. Now, before I begin, I warn you, I'm not going to be lecturing you with the DSM-5 diagnostic criterion and throwing a bunch of psychological babble that no one understands. I don't even understand it, and I have the disorder. I'm just going to be giving you some personal experiences. So one time, I'm in 7th grade, and it's the year after I've been diagnosed and treated. And I'm asked to go up to the board and solve 84 times 15. This is a simple problem, this is a gimme, this is a softball, I got this. So I write it down on my notebook. I'm feeling confident. Go up to the board and write 99, and I cap the pen, and I turn around. The problem is 84 times 15, and I wrote 99 on the board. So the teacher looks at me, looks at the problem at the board, looks back to me again and says, "Ed, are you sure that's the right answer?" And I look back at my work, and I'm like, okay, I haven't forgotten to carry anything. This is simple, this is easy enough. There's no 3s that I need to carry, there's no 2s, I'm good. I'm like, "Yes, ma'am, I'm very confident. I think the answer is 99. And as I say this, my friend in the front row just face palms and tries to disassociate himself from me in any way. And then this know-it-all girl who's been in trouble for talking too much and talking out of turn is just blue in the face because she wants to correct me, but she can't. And it's just awful. And I'm just oblivious to all of this chaos in the classroom. And then my teacher looks at me again. She goes, "Evan, I'm going to give you another chance. Are you sure that's the right answer?" And I think about it. Back at my work, and then I kind of get irritated because I'm confident this is my answer. There's nothing I've done wrong. I go, "Yes, ma'am, this is my answer. It's 99. That's it." And my friend just melts away. I can hear the revive the girl who's just dead because she hasn't breathed in 3 minutes. And then she stops, pauses, grabs the marker, goes up to the board, and circles the X for multiplication. And I look down at my notepad. It doesn't click with me right away. I'm like, why is she circling that? And I'm like, I added instead of multiplying. This is one of the ways that ADHD manifests itself. I tend to forget and make tons of careless mistakes. And that's due to the fact that I have a really fast-moving brain. But that brain that causes me to forget simple things isn't much of a hindrance because it presents itself as a benefit. When I'm off my medication, I'm one of the best people to be around because I'm moving from point A to point B to point C, and I think I get to Z somewhere without, I can skip the letters. I'm going to 9. I am constantly cracking jokes. I'm having fun. You know those 1-800 numbers that actually like call, they're like 1-800, we want your money? My mom has been asked to be taken off of their list for solicitation, and they refuse. They just keep calling. So eventually, she just starts handing them to me because I'm her son with what she calls a pinball brain, so she just gives it to me and I'll just go anywhere with it. I've lectured these guys about ADHD. I've talked to them about the bowl games. I'll narrate the bowl games. I'll be screaming into the earpiece. And then one time, I remember this guy calls me. He's about to make his pitch. He goes, "Sir, how are you today?" And I'll go, "Sir, sir, sir." Rule of 3, it's very important. Sir. He goes, "Yes." I'm like, "Have you had a minute to discuss Jesus Christ and his Church of Latter-day Saints in your life?" And I think he's going to hang up, but he doesn't. He gives this weird sort of like pause. There's just this awkward like sigh, and he kind of thinks about it, and then he hangs up. And I'm just dying at this point because I think today there is a telemarketer out there who is now going to his Mormon church regularly because of me. In addition to causing me to make careless mistakes, my fast-paced brain also causes me to forget things regularly. Let me tell you a story. There was this one time I was going to a golf tournament in Seattle. I love to golf. Going to this tournament, and I'm packing everything, and I made a list, and I'm really proud because I'm trying to get organized. I'm trying to do this my way. I'm trying to make an improvement. I make this list. It's got neat handwriting, which is a plus because my handwriting is just awful. So I'm crossing everything off, and I have everything. I'm confident. I think I can do this. So we get in the car, and about an hour and a half in, Seattle is 3 hours away from my house, so we're halfway there. We hit this really bumpy stretch of highway. My dad goes, "Evan, I'm really surprised your club's turning around in the back because this is just so bumpy, and we're doing like 95 in the car, which is really illegal, but anyway." And I go, "Yeah, me too. I think they should." And I look back, and there's no golf clubs in the back of the car. And I just stopped mid-thought, and my dad goes, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Golf clubs back there." So he just releases the most foul language I've heard in a 3-second stint, and we get off at the nearest exit, we turn around, and then 5 minutes later, my mom just bursts out laughing. And I'm kind of irritated by this because, you know, I've put in a lot of effort to trying to pack and prepare myself, and she's just dying over there. I'm like, "Funny, Mom." She just looks at me, she's like, "My son is the kind of kid who wants to play golf without golf clubs." And it's in part due to my fast-paced moving brain, but it's also because I'm not a linear thinker. I'm a free-form thinker. I don't go from point A to point B, as I said before, from A to Z and wind up with the number 9 somehow. I think very spaciously, and that has manifested itself into my creativity. And I think the better way to describe this is if I tell you another story. There was this one time where I'm walking with my friend, and he's a massive basketball fan, just loves it, lives the sport. And he watched the slam dunk contest, and he just looks at me, he's like, "Dude, Blake Griffin just had this crazy dunk last night. It was wild, it was crazy." And I'm like, "Oh, that reminds me of this documentary about bears that I watched last night." And he just like stops and looks at me, and I'm like walking, because you know, that's how I work, and he's just trying to figure it out, and he's like 15 meters behind me. So he finally catches up. He's like, "Evan, what on earth was that?" I'm like, "I don't understand what is so hard for you to grasp about this. I told you that reminded me of a documentary about bears that I watched last night." And he still doesn't get it. I'm like, "Okay, let me explain it this way. I hear the word crazy, and I automatically with the wild and wilderness for no reason at all. And then I hear the word Blake Griffin, and for some reason, ever since I've seen him, Blake Griffin looks like a bear to me. I don't know, he has this like weird sort of hair thing where it's like curly and it's red and brown, and he just reminds me of a bear. So I'm thinking wild bear. He's talking about what he watched last night. Okay, what did I watch last night? I watched a documentary about bears. He still doesn't get it to this day, and he looks at me, he goes, Evan, I am legitimately concerned about you. I go, I find your concern very touching. He's like, no, I'm serious. How do you function as a human being? Like, when you go out into the world, how are you going to function? And he kind of hit a nerve. And I kind of laughed it off. But there was a part of that was very real to me. I'm scared of going out into the real world because what people don't understand about ADHD is it culminates all the mistakes that you make. Every time that I make careless mistakes, every time I forget something, it's not just a one-off. It's a culmination of these mistakes into a monstrosity. And going out into a fast-paced world scares me. But every time that I get scared, I remember that there is power in perspective. And what I mean by that is we all have power, and that is the power of how we approach the tasks and challenges we handle in day-to-day life. Let me illustrate this one last time. I was diagnosed with ADHD in 6th grade. And I went to go get test results back, the test aptitude for just about everything. Verbal comprehension, mathematics skills, etc. And I was a pretty decent kid. I wasn't a genius, but I was a pretty smart kid. And then what was really hard for me was to deal with the fact that I had some of the worst grades ever. I had C's and D's, and if I had kept on that trajectory, I wouldn't have been allowed to Jesuit. I wouldn't have been allowed to any private Catholic in the Northwest because my grades were just that awful. But there's a power in perspective. You can choose to deal with the grades, or you can choose to see potential and grow from that. With anything, because I know most of you can't relate to constantly getting things, making your dad swear, and like, I don't even know what car we had back then, just making your parents go crazy, is that there's a power in perspective in how you approach problems, and how you view the results of your failure is very powerful. Thank you.